Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today's session on how we can best deploy new technology in public transport. As you know, the transportation world is changing fast, and new technology is popping up everywhere. This is exciting, but it doesn't work on their own. Getting them to run smoothly takes a lot of planning, some serious investment, and health dose of teamwork. So let's dive into how we make it happen. We are lucky to have today a great panel of experts with us to share insights and best practice, financing, and new approach for deploying public transport technology. Let me introduce our panelists. We have Ms. Mona Hussein, which maybe you can introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Good afternoon, everybody. Is it working? You can hear me well? Well, my name is Mona Noureddin. I'm the head of strategic planning and studies units in the Ministry of Municipality, Qatar. I have been working actually over the last 16 years on the Qatar National Master Plan. And by the way, I'm Egyptian, I'm not Qatari, but I'm privileged to work in Qatar, as I said, over the last 16 years. I'm one of the experts who start Qatar National Master Plan from scratch, cross-cutting several planning actually leveling, starting from the strategic level to the city-making level, urban design and landscape design. So it was quite an enriching experience. It's also not my first time here in UAE. I have been invited in several conferences over the last, I would say, 10 years plus, related to the urban planning, urban design, landscape, transportation, and so on and so forth. So I'm pretty connected to the UAE as well, and I'm honored to be with you today in this discussion.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mona. Actually, she played a pivotal role for the FIFA World Cup 2022, and we would love to hear after your experience. We have Mr. Tala Marzouk. Mr. Tala Marzouk.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Talha. I work for OWS Automotive, which is a fleet services in the MRO space, the telematics and tracking, as well as efficiency planning for government fleets throughout the country. We work primarily with the Roads and Transport Authority of Ajman, Transport Authority, to maintain their vehicles, keep their vehicles on the road, and to ensure that they are constantly in a position to take on the technological advancements that the market demands of such a transport regulator and operator. And we do this in collaboration with them on a very close level. We work mostly day to day, actually, to achieve, operational readiness and to deploy new technology wherever possible to provide the consumer with a competitive experience and an experience that is sustainable. And that's a snapshot of what we do here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tala. We will be talking to with Ms. Anan Al-Amri. Please, Ms. Anan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ajman Al-Amri. I work in the Integrated Transport Center, Abu Dhabi Mobility, and I'm heading the sustainable and alternative mobility in public transport. And what I work on is projects on micromobility and the on-demand service. And one of the newest projects is the Green Bus program, where we introduced hydrogen and electric buses in Abu Dhabi services. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Anan. We would love to hear more about Abu Dhabi Green Plan. Mr. Danish Khan.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everybody. Myself, Danish Khan, I'm working with AJ Technology, and we as a company, we have a diversified business, but let me summarize it to something what we do specifically in Ajman, and how long we have been working here, and what all area of expertise that we are implementing in Ajman. We are primarily working with Ajman Transport from the last 6 years and ensuring surveillance within all their fleet inside Ajman, from taxis to public transport buses. And I would say that as a company, we are quite diversified. We take care of all kind of ELV securities. We manage the top 10 bank of UAE in terms of CCTV, in terms of anti-skimming, alarms, etc. And in the past 10 years, we have seen a dramatic changes, or I would say massive change in terms of the way the surveillance work. And we as a company, we always emphasize on ever-changing technology that we can bring into the customer, and that's what we are doing in Ajman to ensure people safety and surveillance, which can improve the overall experience of whoever is living in Ajman. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We are honored also to have Dr. Sabih Khassaf, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sabih Gata Khassaf. My background, civil structure engineer, worked on a number of heavy civil projects, mainly transportation, like London Underground, Heathrow Airport, Terminal 5, UK Highway Agency, and since 2007, I came to the UAE for 1 year. I'm still here. I'm glad I'm still here. My first project was the Abu Dhabi Kizad project. I was the lead structural engineer. Then I worked on the Abu Dhabi Integrated Public Transport Network as civil lead, and then Doha Metro as technical manager, and Dubai Metro. And since 2016, I've been involved with the Hyperloop. I'm trying to implement this technology in this part of the world, and hopefully in the UAE. I led the first ever feasibility study in the world between Abu Dhabi Al Ain, and I'm still working on it, and I hope that I will see it implemented very soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then today we'll explore what it takes to successfully roll out new technology in public transport, covering best practice, financing options, innovations, and the role of PPP, public-private partnerships, in shaping transit system worldwide. Before we dive into specific technology, let's start by exploring the big picture, how strategic urban planning and landscape design influence the way people move around in cities. And we will start with Miss Mona. Miss Mona, please, could you share how urban planning, city design, and landscape choice impact the movement of people and shape transportation system?
Well, it's a very sophisticated question. I can spend hours talking about this, but I'll try to summarize it. Well, I do believe urban planning, especially the strategic one, is playing a crucial role in integrating the transportation system into the city-making, let's say, process. First of all, the strategic urban planning is conducting extensive kind of analysis about the existing situation and how we can improve it, so we can guide actually the transportation system to best fit the requirement that the cities needs. On the other hand, the city-making process, when it comes to the urban planning and the land use and the urban fabrics, the way we integrate the transportation is pretty important. And I do believe urban planning is actually guiding this in terms of the way that we distribute the land use, the way we form and articulate, let's say, the attractions that we are working on. And I would like to shed the light on the notion for the Qatar National Master Plan. Our vision was really to create a sort of compact city, to limit the random urban sprawl and try to maximize the creation of livable city and adaptation of sustainability aspects. And that's why we adopt at the strategic level a sort of transit-oriented development approach that reflected at all actually planning level in the form of creating a sort of urban centers, starting from strategic, again, to capital city center, to town level centers, to district centers, to local centers, and even neighborhood centers. And such centers are mainly served by the public transit system, whether it's metro, whether it's buses, and different type of public transportation. And we also keen about as our colleagues actually, even as the previous discussion panel mentioned, the first mile and the second mile. Because we do believe it's quite a journey from the moment that the people decide to get out of their home or get out of their work. It's a journey to the last destination. So we want to ensure that we are creating a sort of inclusive city, a barrier-free city, where all transportation and transit modes are served to actually enhance the overall sustainability and flexibility and livability of our places. In addition, urban planning also conduct extensive stakeholder consultation, which help actually to fostering a sort of background and I would say advocating any technical, any new transit technologies, any the new master plans across all the involved stakeholders. That includes the governmental stakeholders, the private stakeholders, and different variety of let's say public and private entities. Another aspect, which is also fundamental for urban planning, is the equity notion. We do believe that we need to have equity where all the technologies that we are adopting have full accessibility for all demographic groups of the community. In addition, I would say also the sustainability aspects, how we can form our cities in a way that supports sustainability aspects, like reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, the urban heat island impacts, and all of such actually aspects helps through adopting the transit-oriented developments in creating a compact city to minimize such emissions. So I would say in a nutshell that urban planning, especially the strategic one, is actually not only helping to integrate the transportation system into the city-making process, but also to foster the resilience and sustainable long-term, I would say, success of such.
That's great. And please, can you tell us how can this planning element support more efficient, sustainable transit option?
Again?
Yeah. I mean, how can these planning elements support more efficient, sustainable transit option?
Again, by integrating the transportation system into our master plans right from the beginning. Like I will give you example. Starting from the strategic level, we have the Qatar National Development Framework, which is mainly forming all the policy and policy actions across all development sectors in the country. And it's include already certain policies related to the transportation domain, or what we call actually the movement. Because the way we tackle it is not only from the motorized movement system or models, but also the non-motorized one. And even the micro-mobility, as Ms. Ajman mentioned, again, it's a journey. So how we will use such different modes in a way that is comprehensive and integrated on a strategic level, and later on the other levels when it comes to the implementational and operational plan to really help, again, creating a successful kind of transportation system. It's overall across the country.
Thank you, Ms. Mona. Now, next, let's talk about the real-world application of this technology in daily transit operation. Mr. Tala, can you share some successful case study where new technologies were deployed in public transport system?
Absolutely. So, I mean, technology is something that surrounds us and impacts us on a very regular basis. It's becoming more and more widely available to consumers, which I think creates the need for us as transport providers to have that technology available throughout all modes of transport to those consumers at the level that they expect, whether that's on a train or a bus or a taxi, to be able to access high-speed Wi-Fi, for example, or for us as operators to be able to locate and plan the movement of our assets throughout the city. So I think the implementation of technology has been happening in the transport space for a long period of time, well over 15 years, through various different modes, primarily in the space of real-time tracking, in the space of telematics and operator behavior, in the space of uptime, as well as the deployment of resources in that space. So this, of course, was born from the requirement of, the consumer and the demands of, the first world, and how we can keep up with those demands in the services that we provide. So, of course, there's a lot of challenges in being a first-class provider of services as well as technology throughout various modes of transport, primarily in the form of integration of all of those different technologies into a harmonious environment or into a platform that we can monitor. So I think the IT talent that it takes to keep up with such a growing complexity in the transport space isn't really meeting the demand of the market. But I think it's a sector that is constantly growing and evolving, and we as organizations do our best to support the government, primarily Transport Authority, in its initiatives to deploy that technology throughout the various modes of transport in a sustainable way. And we continue to do that, and and expand on it where we can as partners and collaborators to ensure that, you know, they have a successful implementation throughout whatever technologies and initiatives are on the agenda for the year 2025 and so on and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you give us key factors made this project successful, and what challenges did you face during the deployment?
I think the success factors came from you know, being able to fulfill a demand, and that demand was created by expectations from the consumer, you know, due to globalization and being exposed to other markets, you know, via travel and tourism, and then they come back here and they have those high expectations of the local services to fulfill. So us being able to fulfill those requirements, I think, ensured that we would find success in filling those gaps. And the challenges, I think I touched a little bit on it earlier, primarily came in the sense of change management. You know, changing the consumer experience involves a lot of infrastructure changes, a lot of internal changes that, you know, employees often have resistance to, and, you know, it creates a little bit of a disruption in their routines. But at the same time, it's something that we have to overcome in order to fulfill the market requirements. And you know, in addition to that, the skill gap in providing those technologies isn't really where it should be. So we try our best to source talent from all over the world with various experience profiles to be able to provide a satisfactory and stable experience to our clients.
Thank you very much. Turning now to sustainable mobility. We know how important it is for the future of transport system. Let's look into how alternative solutions can be integrated into urban planning. Ms. Anan, what are some of the key best practices for introducing and scaling sustainable technology in public transport, please?
Thank you for your question. I'd like to start with one of the very recent projects that Abu Dhabi Mobility has been introducing. Basically, we have the Green Bus Assessment Program, which is by far very extensive in new technologies and like various let's say manufacturing, and our main issue, as we all know, is the climate challenges that we have in the UAE. So bringing a let's say an electric bus off the shelf is really not the way, but instead we need to let's say test it in this environment before we make our big purchase, including the hydrogen as well, buses. So a little bit about how we started this. So it's been the past 2 years. We started this program with first, which is the most important part, which is partnering with the leaders. We have technology leaders and bus manufacturing leaders. We both, in both ways, we understood in what is required for this project, and they were on board. So that's the key thing to do. And then the next thing is we hired Emirati talent, basically engineers that could let's say be part of the knowledge sharing with both the hydrogen and electric technologies, where we sent them to both China for the electric and Korea for the hydrogen, where they had knowledge sharing there. And once we came back, we procured the buses. Now the buses that we procured is different models, different technologies, just to see what works best for our climate. And after procuring these buses, what we did was we launched our first green route services, which is on September, where the passengers are actually using these buses. And that was let's say that was a milestone, one of the milestones for Abu Dhabi, where the people are actually like touching, feeling the new net zero future, basically. After that, we will be doing a report. Now, this report will be done by, let's say, mid-June, because us assessing these buses in the hot climate is very important. So we're assessing it for a year, and let's say part of our KPIs is looking into the temperature and the let's say during the days, and the temperature of the bus inside, of course, with the loading, and after that, as I said, it will help us know how many buses we should be procuring in the next years. Because Abu Dhabi is looking to looking to convert the Abu Dhabi island into a green zone, so into a green public transport zone, actually, by 2030. So we're talking about pretty much tomorrow in this, and by 2050 we're looking to convert all our fleets to 100% green technology.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Anan. Another question, since your background is from Abu Dhabi Mobility, how can agencies encourage innovation while moving away from rigid technical specs, I would say?
Well, that's a very good question. What we fall into is we have different technologies all around the world. Each one is saying, hey, this is the best one, this is the best one, and it's really hard for the agencies to really pick something, you know, and we can't just pick a technology and just go with it. Hence, why we did our assessment program for the green buses, to help us with the manufacturers to see what's a good, what's the way forward, how can we, you know, get a good technology for our environment.
Thank you. Let's talk about the challenge of bringing innovative technologies to life within the constraint of projects and timeline. Mr. Danish, how do you encourage... Yeah, it's okay. That's fine. Mr. Danish, please, can you tell us how do you encourage innovation while moving away from too detailed technical specifications in technology deployment?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Can you, how do you encourage innovations while moving away from too technical details and specifications?
All right. I'll start with our practical experience. So what happens whenever we implement or we introduce any technologies to any entity, be it a transport or any corporate, we first need to educate them basically the end result, what and how it will impact them. Because what we have seen, whenever we grow in terms of technologies, the adaptation is something which not everybody is willing to do. They don't adapt to it immediately. Even when they adapt it, the usage, the end result that they can achieve from that particular technology, it takes quite a while. It's a journey, actually. So we try to minimize the whole idea of the upgrades or any technology implementation into something which is beneficiary. Like, let's talk about surveillance. Surveillance is just a simple, a decade ago it was just a deterrent. It was not stopping anything. Like, there is a camera, and if a guy wants to commit a crime, he will commit a crime. But now this is an era of predictive technologies. We are constantly pushing our customers to go ahead with anything which can predict. Like we had done some projects for school buses for thousands and thousands of cameras, where we have installed and equipped the entire bus with systems which can predict. They're driving the bus. I know everybody has witnessed, everybody has children. Their children do go to schools, and how critical is for us to know that our children are safe from the moment they get into the bus and the whole journey. Basically, then yet again the question is, the hurdle starts from the drivers, and the workshop guys when you start implementing something. So we cannot explain them the two core details about anything, but just to educate them. I believe education is the key, where you need to break down the information to each of the stakeholder perspective. Not everybody is technical, not everybody is finance. So you literally need to minimize the idea why this is being done and how it will improve your life. And change is constant, you know that, but adapting a change is something which is always a problem for us as a human, be it any kind of technology. Even if you change your phone, you'll struggle for a bit. But ultimately, when you will know that the benefit of your upgrade is helping you to sort out your problems in your daily life, same is applied in all our projects.
Thank you. Finally, let's dive into the role of infrastructure in supporting new technologies and innovation in transit system.
I mean, we've been talking all day about technology, technology, technology. I'm going to put my hat as a Hyperloop. I think the Hyperloop is the future of public mass transit. Why? Because we know all transport projects, they cannot recoup even the operational cost. Capital cost is lost. With the Hyperloop is basically a system that can operate with the finance from the private sector without intervening any money from the public sector. Also, it's sustainable. Sustainable in which way? It's basically the carbon footprint of the technology is positive, not even zero, is positive. The technology can generate more electricity, more power than is needed to operate the system. The capital cost of the technology also is less than a high-speed system. The reason for that is because the component for a Hyperloop system is less than a component for high-speed system. Having less components to maintain costs you less as well. Also, the technology involved from the operation maintenance, like the inspection. We know I'm done a lot of highways, bridges inspection. The amount of work required to prepare and do this inspection, it's very high. With the new technology, basically the technology can monitor itself, can give data about the health of the system. Safety, everyone think the Hyperloop, how can I go on a Hyperloop inside the tube? We fly 40,000 feet in the sky, and we prepare to do it. But with 6.5 meters on top of the ground, we are scared. No, because most of the accidents in any transport system, 70% caused either by human error or outside intervention. With the Hyperloop system, there is no human intervention. The people will supervise, not intervene. And also, being in its own environment, there is no outside intervention. And I've seen it like in the UK. They have, in just a village not very far from Brighton, south of England, they have to close the station. You know why? It was invaded by cows. And therefore, with the Hyperloop, there is no such things. Or truck hitting the train. Again, no such things with the Hyperloop. And most recently in India, when they opened the first high-speed train, they closed it a day later. Why? Because the train hit a cow on the line. And therefore, from the safety point of view, Hyperloop is safer than any existing transport system.
Thank you. I'm sure the audience would like to know more about PPP. Can you please give us some example where PPP helped solve a major challenge?
Actually, I'm going to draw from my experience. I worked on a number of PPP projects, mainly in the UK. One is Highway Agency, A13, and a number of projects in Ireland. It's basically the way it's the UK government, they don't have the fund to upgrade the highway system, and therefore they ask the private sector to come up with the money to upgrade and modernize the system. Similarly with London Underground, again, one of the projects I worked on, London Underground system is built 160 years ago with a very old technology, and therefore the Mayor of London wanted to upgrade the London Underground. There was no way to get money from the government, and therefore the PPP came in and London Underground upgraded most of the stations. They added a 7th car to Jubilee Line. Jubilee Line is 2 components, one old, one new. The old component, the track or the platform can accommodate only 6 cars, but the new section can accommodate 7 cars, and therefore you will not be able to run a 7-car train on the system as it is, and therefore the PPP upgraded the old station to 7th cars. And there are other examples of infrastructure from hospitals, prison buildings, and this method of procurement is very well known in the Western society.
Thank you. Coming back to Ms. Mona, what lessons can other transit authorities learn from your experience?
Well, actually, there are a lot, but I would shed the light to one of the case study. I would say the Qatar Metro network. So, keeping in mind that it's slightly different than the case, for example, in Dubai. It's not linear. It's more of a network covering the whole metropolitan Doha, let's say. So, tackling again the transportation system or the mass transit-oriented development from a strategic point of view is crucial, and integrating the urban fabrication is also essential because, as I clarified earlier, the notion of the centers where we amalgamate all the uses, the residential, the commercial, the recreational, the community facilities around the mass transit station, let's say the metro station, for example. It's encouraging, again, the successful performance for such network, and also inviting even the private sector to have a sort of appealing case to invest and be engaged in the overall process, for whether for the implementation and for later on for the operational long-term, let's say, sustainable performance for such. So there are actually many aspects. And I would like also to emphasize on the fact that we need to create a sort of credibility and transparency with all involved with the stakeholders. So by having clear policies at the strategic level where all the governmental agreed on, it's giving credibility for all other, again, involved with the stakeholders, and also for the private sector to fully engage in your implementation of your master plans. Also, the regulatory framework is essential because it's sort of legal backup for everything that we are implementing. So by having a clear regulatory framework that is launched, that everybody is aware of and know how to follow, it's also creating a sort of consistency and, I would say, credibility again between all the involved parties. And I would say that urban planning and city making, it's a dynamic process. So we always need to keep an eye on the resilience options. So how can we really create a sort of resilient city where we can adapt to any kind of changes? And like our colleagues said, technology, it's like, it's a high bar. There's always something that you can catch up with. So having such a resilient and holistic framework will enable us to cope up with such changes on the long term.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Tala, how can we encourage innovation, according to you, in public transport?
I think that's an interesting one. Obviously, driving interest of individuals in the field of innovation and encouragement to innovate is something that, there's a lot of inspiration today globally, and there's a lot to learn from. I think programs that encourage sustainable innovation is more important than just generic innovation. We can have a lot of great ideas on how we can do things that are not really green in its approach. And I think the direction of a sustainable future requires more sustainable innovation and more, reduction in the carbon footprint, and how we can do things that are, better for our future, better for the future of the people that will come after us. And I think the government can do a lot in that regard, or governments all over the world, really, in participating in green initiatives and green seminars to raise awareness. Because I think till this day and age, there's still a lot of skepticism around the impact that we have as individuals on the environment. And there's a lot of innovation campaigns that unfortunately don't have a green element. So I think government incentives, government sponsorships to promote green innovation is a good way to start.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Ms. Anan, please, being part of a leading transport authority, can you give us what would be the best practice for sustainability?
Well, the best practice would be starting from your employees, basically, and that and the leadership as well. It's really important that the leadership and employees have the same, let's say, target on how to go forward with going green and sustainable, because it's been there for some time, but it's pretty new in certain areas, and basically all around the world, everyone is going towards that target to be the net zero, in the net zero journey, basically, and you know what? It's better starting today and see how the future goes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anan. Mr. Danish, if we can have, your view as well on how can we innovate in public transport?
There are various ways to do the innovation. First of all, let's start with you need to showcase the long-term goal of sustainable agendas. We, in surveillance and in any kind of hardware-based industry, there are products that are used from the manufacturing point of view till the end usage. You need to educate from the beginning to the, like we use a lot of products which are already comes with a certificate that they are sustainable. And as Talha said, that it's like something comes from the top, and if the leadership drives this whole idea about how we can achieve sustainability and how we can improve our life of our future generations by cutting off carbon emissions. And it starts with at every step, no matter whatever, like every product that we use. So it's a constant, journey and education, and we need to make it work for the future of our children. But it starts with somewhere. You need to believe in this. You need to have enough idea to understand how the current world is progressing and what are the key factors that are causing the problems in terms of heat, climate changes, and there are various factors. So collectively, it starts from every individual's approach on how they take it forward, all these agendas and goal. And I believe right now, every curriculum is talking about in the schools about how we can improve, how we can go sustainable. And similarly, in our businesses, we do try to emphasize on product which are more efficient, so that the overall experience where you don't need to go again and again and again to, there are various factors, and if we have to restrict, it is, I would say that it is always driven on the government level, which can control, which can regulate, and implementing it on a state level or country level so that people can follow. So we just educate, the benefits of long-term goals, how we can reduce various aspects of any implementation that can last longer and provide efficient results.
Thank you very much, Mr. Danish. I would like, to give the parole to Dr. Sabih. Again, like everyone would love to travel from here to Abu Dhabi using Hyperloop. And we are all, excited about this technology. But can you give us, please, more what are the challenges? And, why the timeline are quite long?
We are between friends here. The biggest challenge we're facing, everyone wanted, but no one wanted to pay for it. And that's the reality is. But no, it's happening. As I said, we've done the Abu Dhabi Al-Ain feasibility study and demonstrated its viability. But we also done a number of feasibility studies from India, US, Brazil, Europe. And at the moment, we are working on a project on a PPP arrangements in Italy between Venice and Padua. And basically, we're going to implement a demonstration track for 10 kilometers to demonstrate the technology, to give the stakeholders, the decision makers, the assurance that the technology is working. If you think of the Hyperloop, everyone think of the Hyperloop as something new, but the reality is from transporting people inside the tube is from the 1868. As technology itself, as a Hyperloop, all the components are in existence. We're not inventing anything. The only thing new with the Hyperloop is putting all these components together. And therefore, all the standards are existing. But we still need a new standards, and we are working now with the European community and US Department of Transport to set up the standards, regulations, and best practice to implement the technology. Also, we need to get people who are going to use it, demonstrate to them basically you are safe inside a vacuum tube.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank you all for attending the sessions and inviting you to ask any questions to our panel of experts. If you have any question, if you can just raise the hand, yeah, please.
Thank you very much. I have a question, but it's like it can be considered as a dilemma. So we are talking about technology. We are talking about how cities and urban planning been in place and like ahead of it. But the dilemma is that sometimes technology are more advanced than what's the reality right now, and sometimes the city are more advanced than security are very late. So how can we manage in this situation?
Very good question. Maybe for you, Ms. Mona.
I think we can take the strengths of both. The governmental institutions, which is really, I would say, forming the foundation of the city-making process, and the creativity and innovation of the private sector, who are always seeking to keep up with the most updated or the cutting-edge kind of technologies that we can have. And I do believe the balance between both strengths is the key for us. As I clarified, we do believe urban planning is a dynamic process. Like, it's not constant. There's no rigid kind of plan that's supposed to be done in the future. Because planning by definition is what? Is to be prepared for the future, right? And we can all argue that you cannot predict the future, no matter the amount of information, analysis, and expectation you may form for the future. So to keep always a room for enhancement, to keep always a room for, again, what I mentioned about resilience, that you can cope up with your future to create a sort of timeless, let's say, a master plans is a key to get the strengths for both sides. So lay the foundation, have the policies, have the regulations, flexible enough, grounded, but flexible enough to cope with such changes in the future. This is my point.
Thank you. Yeah, please, Mr. Dr. Sagbe.
It's a very interesting question, and I'm coming on from the new and old technology. As I said, I'm structural engineer, bridge engineer. I use standards. For the old technology, we're still using the old standard, the standards which were designed back in the 80s, when we had a lot of unknowns. But we're still implementing these standards, even though we have a new technology. We have the 3D printing, we have BIM, we have composite materials, we know all the quality of materials, but we need to revisit our standards in order to, because we talk sustainability, and the most sustainable thing is, instead of spending 60% more material than you need, that's the most sustainable way. And the way to do it, to revisit your standards. But we need leadership, because it's coming from the top. If we have people in the decision making that allow us to work with smaller safety factors, then I think we can move with a new design. And the new technologies, as I said, on the Hyperloop, we still don't have the standards that are going to be, when we have the technology implemented, how we're going to put it. And therefore, again, we need leadership to give us the go-ahead and implement these standards. Once we have the technology implemented and Hyperloop become a public transport, we don't need to wait 10 years in order to have the standards.
Thank you, Doctor.
I would like actually to add one more point for this. I would also encourage to adopt the notion of up-down and bottom-up approach. It's never one direction. So yes, through the governance, through the strategic approaches, you have, again, the foundation. You can guide all the other sectors how they're supposed to perform by forming a clear vision, clear master plans, and get everybody aligned to the future with a clear vision. But at the same time, when it comes to the implementation and the real execution of such master plans, it's also bottom-up approach. So we can revisit our policies, we can revisit our regulations, our standards, our guidelines, as per the reality that we are facing, to keep such dynamics in the process of the city making.
Thank you, Ms. Mona. Any other question, please? Okay. I would like to thank all our panelists for sharing their valuable insights today. And a big thank you to our audience for being part of these sessions. If you would like to continue the conversations, feel free to reach out to any of our panelists. We appreciate your time and participations.